8 years after I had the dream of walking around the world, I began. I walked out my front door, I walked down the US, I adopted Savannah in Texas, and then we passed through Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, and eventually we arrived in Costa Rica. And in Costa Rica, it was 100 degrees, 100% humidity, no breeze every day. At a certain point, it was so hot, the soles of my shoes melted. But for however challenging Costa Rica was to walk through, I always had access to clean water. And each day I would pass these pristine streams that were clean enough to bathe in, and when you're sweating as much as I was, made a huge difference. I knew Costa Rica's cleanliness was remarkable, even at the time, because it was in contrast to other countries in the region. A month before, Savannah and I walked to Guatemala. And in Guatemala, this strange thing kept happening to me. I would get to a tienda, a shop, and ask for agua, water, only to be given a Coca-Cola instead. This happened a few times until I saw a sign on the side of a shop that told me what I was doing wrong. In order to get water from a shop in rural Guatemala, I had to ask for agua pura, pure water. A lot of water in Guatemala isn't potable. And in other countries where this is common, I would see kids returning home with big jugs of water. But in Guatemala, the kids would be returning home with Coca-Cola or Sprite instead, because it was the same price as water, tasted better, and it was just as accessible. And so the word for water simply came to denote Coca-Cola. And so by the time I reached Costa Rica, where there were streams clean enough to bathe in, and where even at bus stops in the middle of the country, there'd be a water fountain with crystal clear water coming out of it, the contrast in cleanliness was profound. But it begs the question of why? Why are the streams in Costa Rica so clean while those in neighboring countries aren't? There isn't enough difference in geography to explain this. Guatemala has plenty of natural water sources, as does Panama, as does Nicaragua. The difference is Costa Rica has valued environmental cleanliness for decades. In the 1980s, they established a national conservation strategy for sustainable development so that today, roughly a third of their land is protected. And they generate 98% of their electricity from renewable resources, and they have been for years. This commitment to sustainability has led to a thriving ecotourism industry, certainly the best in the Americas. And this thriving ecotourism industry has led to Costa Rica valuing their natural resources even further. By simply knowing what they valued, Costa Rica started a positive feedback loop. The first step in becoming anything, a successful person, a successful company, a successful country, is knowing what you value. Think of our beloved Declaration of Independence, right? What is the very first thing it does? The very first thing. It lays out the country's values. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. If I asked you, right now, to write down the 3 values most important to you, the 3 things you want most out of life, could you do it? If the answer is yes, then fantastic, you have your center. You know where you are on that map. If the answer is no, if it's maybe, something I've done throughout my life to help me refine my values is to imagine yourself far in the future, looking back on your life. What do you see when you do that? What sort of life did you lead? Do you have regrets? Or are you looking back and smiling, thinking to yourself, not everything went right, never does, but at least I lived a life that meant something to me. That's where your values are, in that feeling right there. At least I lived a life that meant something to me. Clearly defined values serve as the foundation for sustainable growth. And so laying out what you value is where anything purposeful begins.